Before we get started with the episode, I have a favor to ask. Please head over to citycast.fm/survey to take our quick listener survey. Trust me, it should take you about 5 to 7 minutes. And at the end, you'll be entered to win a $250 Visa gift card. Again, that's citycast.fm/survey. Today on CityCast Chicago, it has been 10 years since Chicago abruptly closed 50 schools, but what happened to the buildings once the doors were boarded up? Plus, we discuss all that damn cottonwood, adopting Chicago pets, and of course, some good. Nope, I'm going to save it for later. Here with me are two of Chicago's best freelance journalists, Natalie Frazier and Maya McDonald. It's Friday, June 9th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Good morning, my friends. Thank you for joining me on CityCast today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And we got a lot to talk about, but I got to get started with a question. The CityCast team has been going back and forth on all week where we like to spend our summer the most. At the park or at the beach? Natalie, I'm going to start with you. Where would you prefer to relax on the hottest days of the summer?
Well, I'm a West Sider, so I got to pick the park. We don't have a lot of access to beaches, but I'll go to the lakefront. But the park, to me, is just where it's at. You know, you can just pull your car right up, hang out, grill, kick it.
I appreciate that. You and I got to do a neighborhood guide over in Lawndale some months back, and we found our way at Douglas Park. And I appreciate you just sharing sort of your own memories, like your what it meant growing up, being so close to that park. Maya, what about you? Are you team park or you team get our ass out to the beach?
I have to say, I am more team park. I haven't really been to the beach in the last few years. It's just like sometimes hard to get out there. A lot of the beaches are like crowded. I'm making it my mission to get to the beach at least once this summer because I wanted to do that last year and I just didn't. It didn't happen.
Hey, we all on the same page. Simone and I got into a little back and forth earlier this week, and I was team parks, and Simone was team beach. But now, Simone, you are 1 against 3, so you can't beat us up. So we got to figure something out. Maya, I'm gonna put you on because one little small, like little beachfront that a lot of people don't know about, doesn't get crowded, behind the South Shore Cultural Center, right? They have the nature preserve, but also right next to it is a small little beachfront. So you can dip your toes in, you can cook out, and it almost is never crowded. You know, because people don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah. There's also, I'm a Southeast Sider, and really close to Indiana, there's Calumet Park, and they have the Calumet Park Beach. That one is a little less populated, one of those more hidden beaches. So if it's usually trying to find somewhere that's not like a more crowded beach, I would try that one too.
Every single week, we bring in a couple of friends to talk about the stories that matter to them this week. And we started our week of episodes off with a conversation with Dr. Eve Ewing about the 10-year anniversary of Chicago abruptly closing 50 schools. But one thing we didn't talk about is what happened to those shuttered buildings. Natalie, can you catch us up on what has been the fate of many of these South and West Side schools?
Yeah, shout out to Eve. I'm reading Ghosts in the Schoolyard again. It's such a great book. But so Chicago Sun-Times and WBZ did a great story on just the fate of those buildings and discovered that 26 of them are still vacant and there's nothing happening with them. And of course, those buildings are predominantly on the South and West sides. And the story just does, a really good job of just showing like all of the intricacies of the closed schools, just, you know, like everything that comes with it, right? Like from like how much the city is paying, or, you know, just trying to think about how much the city is paying to keep these properties boarded up and secured versus like private owners now who are doing nothing with the properties. And also just like how the parents of the students and the students themselves feel. Like there's a really good article from a kid who actually had to deal with like a closed elementary school and a closed high school. And that kid talks about just like this loss of history. And he calls it Black history. So it's just a really, really heartbreaking story. But, just really gives you a good idea of the lasting impact of those buildings. They're more than just empty buildings.
Exactly. And one of the things that we talked about in our conversation is both a reminder that this is like has living consequences, that this still matters to people, that as they walk through their neighborhoods and they see these boarded up buildings, like you said, it reminds them of the history that's being lost. It also reminds some communities that no matter what they do, investment in their neighborhoods is so elusive because you have neighbors who have been fighting to get use of those buildings. Well, how can we turn them into community centers? How can we use them to provide housing for unhoused people? And you see that like that has not moved forward. And so, Maya, as we kind of move through this 10-year anniversary, what have you heard from people who are still dealing with the consequences of either their school being closed or school in their neighborhood or people they know? Because you almost can't be disconnected from this. If your school wasn't closed, you know someone who was impacted by this.
Yeah, my neighborhood on the south side didn't have one of those closed schools, but my late cousin, her apartment used to be like right across the street from one of those closed elementary schools. And I would go to, like, when we would visit, it would be like such a stark reminder because a lot of those schools are glass and all the windows, and you can still see inside. You can walk around them and see the classrooms and still textbooks and things like that are just left there. 10 years later, we're still waiting for things that we were promised. It's almost like, a disappointment sort of feeling that people experience, or for some people, even a little bit of resentment that, these are happening in, primarily Black communities.
Yeah, I think that also is like a super sour pill. Reminds us of the plan for transformation, as they call it, right? When they tore down public housing and made all these promises to move people back in, there was never any accountability measure. These were sort of self-created dates and promises and thresholds. But if they didn't actually hit those marks, no one was going to be held accountable. The hope is that we see a coordinated plan to move these forward. But I worry just how much effort will be put into renewing some of these buildings because, you can't just hide them in the neighborhood. They stick out like a sore thumb. This week, in addition to moving through our neighborhoods and trying to think about the consequences of these policies, something that I've noticed as I've walked around the city is it feels like it's summertime, but it looks like the wintertime because the grounds are just covered in what looks like white snow, but it's not. Maya, what is all of that stuff covering the ground right now, and why is this so out of control?
Yeah, so those little fluff balls that a lot of folks are seeing in their neighborhoods, it's something actually called cottonwood seeds. As we move towards summer, trees are starting to give off their seeds. So now that, it's warmer, they are putting out these cottonwood seeds that are like a seed plus fluff, which, evolutionarily was developed so that the seeds could travel far distances and have a better chance at actually landing somewhere where a full tree could grow. The thing about that, though, is this year there seems to be a lot more cottonwood than we've had in past years, primarily due to the fact that last summer it was a little warmer and drier. So that meant that trees could develop more reproductive structures than they normally would, which means now a year later, there's more seeds that are able to be pushed off by the trees. And we've had sort of a dry spring this year as well. So there's not really a way for the seeds to be cleared out because that would normally be done by rain. But since we haven't had a lot of that, they're just, piling up and not going anywhere.
I mean, it's one of those moments where I was like, I was okay that it hasn't been a super rainy spring. And then it was like, yeah, but there are consequences to that happening. And I read that one cottonwood tree can give off 50 million seeds at a time. I couldn't find how many cottonwood trees, estimate of them in Chicago, because I was ready to do that math, but it was probably a number that I personally could not comprehend.
Yeah, so I'm in North Lawndale, and I mean it's super hot. Like, and we actually don't have a lot of trees in North Lawndale. Like, I think our neighborhood is like on average like a couple temperature points hotter than a lot of neighborhoods in the city. So
We actually talked about that earlier this week as well. Why are some neighborhoods hotter? And the lack of trees contributes to that mightily.
yeah, so I like my grass is just getting burned to like smithereens. Like it looks like hay. So I haven't seen the cotton like in my neighborhood, like the cottonwood seeds. I haven't seen a lot of it. Thank God, because I feel like my dog would just eat it and it probably wouldn't be good.
A lot of my friends have been asking the same questions. What is going on? And how do we deal with this? One thing I will say, because we have seen a few fires around the city from the cottonwood piling up, if you have access to like a garden hose or a sprinkler or something, just clearing that cottonwood out, keeping your grass wet, keeping like kind of using either a leaf blower or a garden hose to blow it off of the sidewalks, out of the grass, might help you to prevent even worse consequences. We always want to make sure we're bringing some attention to the stories that might not get enough attention during the week. And Natalie, I want to start with you. We have spent a good amount of time talking about arriving asylum seekers in Chicago, but there was a piece from the Tribe that recently came out that you want to shine some light on.
Yeah, for sure. The Tribe recently did a piece about why I think it's called "Why Migrant Funding is So Divisive in Chicago," and I think we've heard a lot of just kind of different sides of this story, right? Like we got like pro asylum seekers, right, and then we got folks who are like pro South Shore residents, and it's been really kind of divisive. And I think the Tribe is always gets down to like the nitty gritty, right? Like why is there this tension? And I think the story does a really good job of parsing out, the history of South Shore residents, the divestment that's happened in the neighborhood, and why it is kind of causing this really polarizing reaction to asylum seekers. And you got like some good voices in there who talk about how we need to be fighting, for both communities, right? And that, it's not a zero-sum game. And that, there's enough for all of us, but we have to work together. But also understanding the frustration of South Shore residents, right? Because it's very real and it's very valid, why some residents feel the way they feel.
And it directly links to your opening story as well, because South Shore was one of those communities that had to watch local schools get closed. And for 10 years, residents have been fighting. Well, how can we make this useful for the community? And the city showed very quickly in some ways how quickly you can retrofit a building, how quickly you can reinvest in a building, how quickly you can bring a facility back to life for something that I think all of us on this call agree is necessary. And so if we can move this quickly to house people who need it, then let's make sure we're moving this quickly for everybody who needs it across the city. So I'm glad you dropped some more attention to this story. We love Tonya here at CityCast, and we're going to drop a link in the show notes as well.
Hey, CityCast Chicago, it's Michael Ziviak. While CityCast Chicago works hard every day to connect you with the stories that matter most, I'm working in the background making sure that our listeners are connecting with the best that Chicago has to offer. So what does that look like? It means meeting with the people who make Chicago what it is. The business owners, the stakeholders, the decision makers. The Chicagoans who put together those food festivals you enjoy, the concerts you attend, the exhibits you can't miss, and who make those candles your mom can't stop talking about. If this sounds like you, let me help you get your message out to the city's best audience with an ad right here on the CityCast Chicago podcast and on our sister daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. Shoot me an email at ads@citycast.fm and let's connect.
This episode is brought to you by Caesar Gourmet Food for Dogs. Your dog deserves the best, so give them what they've always wanted. Real food for dogs. Caesar Wholesome Bowls are made with real chicken or beef as the first ingredient, and fresh vegetables. Crafted with no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives, Caesar Wholesome Bowls are great as a full meal, topper, or snack for your best friend. Pick up Caesar Wholesome Bowls in the wet dog food aisle at any major retailer near you. Caesar, love them back.
Maya, I want to bring you in here. It is summer season, which means more and more animals, right? More puppies, more kittens. And you've been talking about this a lot recently, especially with rescue organizations around the city of Chicago. Can you give us some updates on your reporting?
Yeah, so since we're kind of leaving spring, entering summer with warmer temperatures, that means more animals out and about, meeting up to get busy. And a lot of the time, summertime is when you see the biggest influx of puppies and kittens and different animals like that to rescue organizations, to CACC, the city's pound. They see a lot of the same things that, we need help if it's like somebody that needs, that's looking to foster or adopt, which is more of a, lifetime commitment. If you can step up and do that, that's definitely helpful. And trap and neuter programs like the one that Paws has, or getting your pets spayed and neutered, that helps a lot. Sometimes pets may get out, you may lose them, and those are the kind of animals that, my neighborhood on the southeast side has like a ton of, those roaming stray cats, and those are the ones that you see all populating our city a lot, because cats in particular, they're able to, female cats, they are able to reproduce or become pregnant about every 62 days with about 4 to 5 kittens, which is a lot if you think about,
I didn't know that.
a year.
Thanks
yeah.
for the math. Me and Natalie was like, 62, 4 to 5.
Yeah,
oh my
it's a
God,
lot. And
about 10 every 4 months.
They get busy.
I'm saying, and it's not always easy for rescues to kind of shoulder the burden on their own. And Paws Chicago is looking to adopt out about 450 kittens this summer. So if you've been thinking about it and you're interested, I would reach out to them.
Mm-hmm. We'll drop a link. Their campaign goes until August 31st. I grew up with a ton of animals in my house. My parents, at different times, we had cats who specially got out. I think all of our cats except one eventually just got out and wanted to live their woodlawn life. We had dogs, everything from St. Bernards to Rottweilers. We had birds in our house. So as somebody who doesn't have a pet right now but loves them, I love hearing not only these stories of people finding their forever animals, people who foster, people who adopt from rescues, but I love hearing about other people's pets. Natalie, I know your dog is close by, so I'm going to start with you before I give it up to our CityCast listeners. What's your dog's name? And can you tell us like something fun or something you just love about your dog?
Yeah, I got 2 pets. My dog is Koa. Her name is Koa. She is 2 now, but she acts like a puppy. She is a boxer blue heeler mix, so she's real fun. She likes to herd people. So if I'm running in the yard, she'll like nip at my feet, which is cute when you talk about it, but it's not really cute in practice. And then I have a cat named Lucky. He's gonna be 3 soon. He's like a black medium hair cat. And him and my dog just like box all day. Like it's like WWE in here. So they have a pretty interesting household. So that's what my pets are up to, Koa and Lucky.
Maya, you got any pets or animals in your house or in your family?
Yes, just hearing Natalie say that, it's so familiar because I have a dog, Kita. She's about 10, and our cat, Cece, who I think is about 5. They don't really like each other at all. They can sort of coexist in a space sometimes, but most of the time it's like rivals, enemies. It's like...
Who run the crib, the cat or the dog?
I would say... Kita's been here for longer, so she's pretty comfortable. But Cece, she has kind of a bad attitude, so she kind of stalks around the house like she owns the place. We also have a turtle, who is like the chillest sort of pet you can imagine because she's in a tank doing her own thing.
What's your turtle's name?
TR. It was named by my younger cousin, and I guess she kind of settled on TR, and now we kind of, if we have to come up with like a real name, her name is Tawana Raquel, but yeah, TR. And she's pretty old too now.
Beautiful. We will drop links to Maya's stories and coverage about Paws and other shelters in the city, but we also want to hear from you. Tell us about your pets. You can call us at 773-780-0246. Leave a voicemail or send us a text message. We want to know your name, your pet's name, your neighborhood, and please tell us something fun about your little furry bestie, or unless they're like a hairless cat, just your bestie, your hairless bestie as well. Every episode of CityCast ends the exact same way, with some good news. This is an event, some personal news, something you're looking forward to this weekend, just something that makes sure we ends with some positivity, some good news. Chicago is such a joyous place. We want to make sure we're letting people know that every single day. Maya, what is your some good news? I've been feeling good today. I'm going to have to rock with this energy.
Yeah, so I recently found out this week that I'm going to be an aunt again. My brother and his girlfriend are expecting a baby girl this summer, which would be 3 nieces and a nephew that I have. So I'm super excited. I love being an aunt since I don't have any kids of my own, and I just like being the aunt that can splurge on the little kitties, and having another one added to the group is really exciting. So that's my good news. Just super excited for a whole gaggle of little babies.
I can tell how excited you are, not only from the smile on your face right now, but every story, you found a way to mention these beautiful young people in your life. And so happy for you. Congratulations
Thank
for your
you.
family as well. I absolutely love my 2 nieces, Zion and Zuri. I try to go out to the burbs. They all the way in Homewood.
Oh, wow.
It ain't an every week thing, but I try and make that train trek out there to see my youngins and to kick it with them. My oldest niece, she is so funny because I told her she's getting to that age where we can start doing one-on-one things. We can go to the movies, we can go to the museums. And the last time I was over there, she was just like, I haven't forgotten Uncle Kobe.
Oh.
When we gonna have our day out? I was like, gee, your memory's starting to stick. I can't just be making false promises. I gotta follow through. And I like that.
I'm looking forward to getting to that point. All my little nieces and nephews, they're under 4, so once they get a little older, I'm so excited
I can't do under 4.
to be able to do that.
Natalie, I want to bring you in here. What is your some good news?
Well, the sun is out. For me, the summer is all about being outside. So it's patio season, it's festival season, it's porch season for me. So just got a bunch of stuff planned. I'm hitting the zoo with my god baby this weekend, and then
Come on.
Just outside on patios, and then Hyde Park Summerfest is my little cross country event. When I go to the South Side, so that'll be fun. Excited to see what's going on over there.
Who are you looking forward to? It's a decent lineup for the 2 days of Hyde Park Summerfest, June 17th, June 18th, here in my neighborhood. What act are you looking forward to?
Did I see Lil' Kim on there correctly?
Yes, you did. Sunday headliner.
I'm trying to see her do that in person. I'm trying to see the little dance.
It don't make no noise, but I'm trying.
I'm trying to see the little dance. Really, I don't even have to hear the. I like her music, but I'm really trying to see her do that little weird dance. Really.
No, I understand that. I'm looking forward to this Chicago Hip Hop 50. So if people are not familiar, the Hip Hop Awards did a 50-year anniversary celebration of hip hop rap music not too long ago. But if you looked at the presentation, you would think Chicago never existed because they didn't mention us, didn't play a song, didn't show an artist. I thought Common was going to come out there and do his Microsoft stand-up. It did not happen. So the Hyde Park Summerfest is doing their own Chicago Hip Hop 50 with people like Vic Mensa, Twista, Shauna, Crucial Conflict, and they're just going to pay tribute to these amazing legends that have come through Chicago. I mean, when you just think through the list of people, whether it's DeBrat, right? Whether it's Lupe, whether it's, we got to put Ye in there. We do. If we talking history, all the way up to the people who are charting now, who have influenced music. People don't give Keith enough respect for what he has done to modern hip hop music, right? Watching Dirk become a superstar, right? Yeah. It's beautiful to see. And so I'm excited for Hyde Park Summerfest. We will drop links for tickets in the show notes. Some good news this week is very, very, very close to my heart. For longtime listeners, they may know I've told the story of Rich City Skate, which was a skating rink in the south suburbs for 10 years in the mid-2000s that was owned by my step-grandparents, my mom, and it was basically my high school job. I spent my entire time there. and it closed about 7 or 8 years ago. This weekend at Glenwood Roller Skating Rink, Saturday night, is a rich boy reunion. Our sort of in-house skating team was known as the Rich Boys, made up of some of the greatest roller skaters in Chicago. Shout out Rashad, shout out DJ, shout out Bryce. They were amazing. And I haven't seen some of these guys in years now. And so we're doing a reunion at Glenwood. Natalie, Maya, either of y'all roller skaters?
I skate a little bit. My mom and like my mom and her siblings grew up skating, and like I grew up at the rink. I don't tell people, but I'm actually like I was born on the south side, and I spent a lot of my time at the rink.
Shout out to Natalie Frazier and Maya McDonald for being not only two of the best freelance journalists in Chicago, but for making time for the best podcast in Chicago. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, I got to give a huge thank you to the people who make CityCast Chicago. That's lead producer Simone Alisea, our newsletter editor Sydney Madden, our producers this week, A.K. Al-Mumin, Elizabeth Kama, and Noah Snyderman. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. Of course, my last thank you is for you. The only way I can have more appreciation for you is if you go to citycast.fm/survey and take our listener survey to be entered for a chance to win $250. I'm going to be here bright and early on Monday. I'll talk to you then. Peace. At this point, they play that classic Jacoby Cochran transition music. Cool.